All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's NBA pre-lock show where we are here to talk through this slate, talk through what we're doing on the Dom station today. But more importantly than any of that, I have a super special guest who will hopefully be a reoccurring guest. Swami, how are you doing, man? Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, good, man. Appreciate you having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Swami is a fantastic props player. He's a coach in the Sharp app. He has made a lot of people and himself a lot of money. You also do DFS. You know the DFS world pretty well. You've been playing for a while. You've had a lot of success there too, right?
Yeah, that's where I started, was with DFS Army. So definitely had success over here, and looking to get back into it a little bit more. I've been focused mainly on props, but no baseball now, so getting back into it. Yep.
Yeah, you get to hang out with us a little bit more now. Yeah, Tattoo. Having him on, I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity here, but it's good to have him.
What up?
Everyone in the chat, good to see y'all. And yes, Dixon, I know the NFL show is going on right now. It's not ideal. It's one of those things where views are always going to be a little bit lower on a Monday while the NFL season's going, but that's okay. That's why we have a smaller slate, just a sweet 8-gamer to kind of make some things happen. And we're starting off the slate hot. Of course, it looks like Giannis is going to be out. Did you see that news come through, Swami? Yeah, he is officially ruled out. So, yeah, good way to... Ian, we can rate their stream, but let's try to finish this one first. We don't want to lose people quite yet. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the games. We'll start off with the Bucks going up against the Cavs. This Bucks team has been awful, and now they're going up against a Cavs team that has been fantastic. It does not look like the Cavs are probably going to see their first loss today of the season, but with Giannis out, that's a slate changer, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts? Who stands out for you for the Bucks tonight?
I mean, now with Giannis out, I mean, you kind of looking at Bobby Portis and his ownership there. It's pretty low. So, I think people might be busy tonight voting, so maybe bumping, I don't know what your thoughts are percentage wise, but yeah, maybe some Portis, maybe some more Dame,
Yeah. For sure. Of course, y'all, the Domination Station is going to update with this news. Lock isn't until 7, so we have plenty of time for it to update. So I want to wait and see what we do with the projection and ownership, and then I'll make some more decisions from there. But I think you're right. Like right away, we have to start looking at guys like Bobby Portis. We've seen him smash in these kind of spots before. The only thing that concerns me is this Cavs defense. But at 5,800, that's not a bad price tag. And if his ownership stays low, that's what I want to pay the most attention to. That's when he becomes significantly more viable. And you're right, Damian Lillard will see a gigantic increase in usage. The matchup is still hideous, but I'm going to have to take some shots here without Giannis. I think we know Damian Lillard is going to be a very viable play. Other guys we can look at are guys like Brook Lopez. Again, that's just a big... Giannis gets a good amount of rebounds, so I want some exposure to him. Matchup hasn't been that tough this season against the Cavs, even though their front court typically is a pretty good defense. So Lopez is someone we can look at. Gary Trent Jr., he's been bad. I think he's burnt a lot of y'all this season. I haven't had too much exposure to him, but with a guy like Giannis, all of that usage now being gone, it wouldn't shock me if he's a little bit more viable. And then... We'll wait and see what happens with projections on some of the other guys, but the Bucks are a team I'm looking to get weird with. Make sure you check out the leverage cheat sheet around like 6:30, 6:45, and I'm going to have some of these guys here, especially if they're low owned. Anyone else you want to touch on here, Swami?
I mean, maybe, Connaughton. I mean, I've seen him pop before, but not really other than that. Yeah.
And Dixon, you're right. You better get on that right now if you're trying to get a discount on that. There definitely could be some value there, but I'm pretty sure the books are on top of it already. Portis will probably end up being chalky. We'll just have to wait and see. There's a good amount of decent options on this slate and a lot of questionable tags too. If I ever mention Torrent Prince, stop me. Hey, I might not have mentioned him, but I'm not against him today, to be honest. Yeah, and you're right, Team CJ. I don't think Lillard is a bad play, and the Cavs aren't a team you can't play players against. The total's still relatively high, so I'm not overly concerned, but blowout is a very, very valid concern now at this point. For the Cavs, they're going up against this Bucks team that has just struggled defensively at every single position, it seems like. But does anyone stand out for you on this slate, man?
I think I would be worried about, the blowout potential here. So I'd just be careful playing them. But I think I'd just be right around the field with, like Mobley and Allen and Mitchell, main guys there. But yeah.
I think the nice thing here for the Cavs is that no one's super expensive. So it makes me a little bit less concerned about the blowout. But like you said, man, it's probably going to happen pretty quickly. If I had to guess.
They've stunk, like you said, too.
Yeah, they've been so bad. But I love the matchup for Donovan Mitchell. We've been playing guards against the Bucks really since last year, and I'm not going to stop doing that. So Donovan Mitchell is a player I'm forcing exposure to on this slate. But if you want to get a little weird, and I'm saying this with caution because we know Darius Garland can really not look great sometimes. If you want to get a little weird, I don't think Darius Garland is a bad play at 7,100. He's a little pricey, not too expensive though, but the matchup is fantastic, and it's really the ownership that I'm targeting here. And then, like you mentioned, I think Mobley's definitely very viable. I'm not trying to fade him. Let me see. He's showing up in... Not surprised. I thought he was showing up in a few more of my lines. I might force a little bit more exposure to Mobley because I don't want to have him not show up when he's not going to have Giannis on him at all. I just think the matchup is much softer. And at 7,300, he's not bad. So I want to at least be close to field weight, like you said. I like that call on Mobley. Anyone else you want to touch on here? I think we're probably safe. Don't really want to get too cute, probably.
No, yeah, I agree. I think Mobley is probably my favorite out of the Cavs. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Next up, we have another high total game. Warriors going up against the Wizards. I don't know why. I feel like I've seen a lot of these teams play this season, and I don't really feel any particular way about it. Besides, I'm just kind of tired of seeing them, but it's fine. It's a DFS game, so I'm playing them. For the Warriors, did any of these guys stand out for you?
Well, did I see? So Curry, is he not questionable now? Like
last time I looked, Curry is still questionable. Unfortunately,
still questionable. Okay.
Yeah, that's still big news. Great point.
Right. So I mean, yeah, I mean that's really the huge news is if he's gonna play or if Brandon Podziemski has looked pretty good without him in there. So. And then Trace Jackson Davis has also started to come on a little bit. I was surprised to see him get off to a little bit of a slow start this year. So I like those two guys, but I think it really just depends if Curry's in or not. So yeah, but I think if he is in, maybe that I think that honestly could help some guys like Kuminga and Wiggins potentially. We'll see what happens, but
yeah, it's weird. This is a game I feel like I should want exposure to. I think
Poole's also on the other team, and they don't like Poole, so we remember that.
That's true. There is a narrative here. There is a very strong narrative here, especially with Draymond playing. I almost kind of wish Curry takes tonight off, just so we see Draymond push these guys to be a little bit more aggressive against this Wizards team, and Poole in particular, who has been a bit better this season than many people expected him to be. So for now, it's more of a wait and see situation. If Curry plays, I'm not really planning on forcing exposure here because we're not really getting discounts on anybody. But if he's out, then I'm looking at guys like Hield, Podziemski, Draymond, even Andrew Wiggins, even though he's been really bad here lately. I think all of those are guys who could show up in lines. Let me double check and make sure there's no one showing up for me currently. And yeah, they're not showing up at all. So wait and see situation.
Is he really at 0?
Who?
0? Podziemski? I have him at 0 projected ownership.
Yeah, at 6,300.
Yeah.
Let me see.
The price tag there for him.
Yeah, and I think if Curry plays, that's what makes him, a little bit harder to click on. Whereas if Curry gets ruled out, then that's when you're like, okay, he has 30, 40 point upside. He can pay off that price tag. But with Curry playing, he's usually in that like 14 to 25 fantasy point range,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. If that ownership is 0% and Curry is out, we need to be significantly over the field here.
Right. Exactly.
All right, cool. Next up, we have the Wizards going up against the Warriors. No injury news here. Who stands out for you?
Well, the last time I was blowing up the chat and I was talking about Koulibaly, or however you say his name, Bilal, and he had a really good game. So, I don't know though against the Warriors. I mean, their defense has been okay. So I think Poole, like you said, he's been having a decent year, and even against some decent teams. So I think Poole could potentially, he has those games where he just goes off, and this is a narrative as well, but I think it could line up for him. So I definitely, even though I don't like the guy, I definitely would like Poole today. So definitely gonna have some exposure to Poole.
Yeah, I mean, I think him blowing up in that Boston game is really what kind of did it for me. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
he's turning around a corner. He's still not above 8K. We know, let's see, the upside he has around 40, 45 points is probably 50 points is his true ceiling if I had to put a number to it. But I don't hate Poole, and 99% of it is the narrative, I'll be honest. We know the Warriors have been a pretty solid defense, like you said. They haven't really had one particular glaring weak point so far this season. So nothing's really standing out for me too much besides the fact that I do just want to make sure I have exposure to Poole. And it's not all narrative. We're also looking at the highest total game on the slate. And so this is a game where we should be trying to find reasons to play guys. And I'll even go back to the Warriors. If Curry does play and he's going to be low owned, I will take a couple shots on him just to have some exposure to the highest total game on the slate. That's always been a pretty consistent part of my process, because oddly enough, it's a relatively low owned spot 9 times out of 10. So I will force exposure to Poole. Outside of that, let me see if anyone else is just showing up naturally. Yeah, they are. So Carlton Carrington is showing up a good amount around almost core play worthy. Probably actually will be a core play for me, but will change after we got that Bucks news. But he's someone who is showing up in a good amount of my lines. We also have George at 3,900, who's playing 30 minutes, and again in the highest total game on the slate. His ownership is relatively high, but again, not something I'm trying to avoid. These aren't players that you trust. They aren't high usage guys. They're just players who see a lot of minutes in a good game environment. So you don't want to go too crazy, but it's not bad going over the field on these type of guys in this situation. And you mentioned him, Bilal Koulibaly. I don't know if I'm saying that right either, but he's also someone who I'm significantly over the field for now. I'm going to have to rerun once we update that Bucks news, but still, same thing as the other guys. I didn't know Bilal had that kind of upside. I'm not going to lie, but he surprised me that game last week. But I'm willing to go back here just because of the good game environment, and he's showing up naturally in the DS. And I did absolutely nothing to him. And then let's see. That's pretty much it. Kispert is showing up for me a little bit, but I don't love it. It looks like I'm over the field or under the field on Joval, and I'm totally fine with that. He's not someone I really want to play when he's chalky. And that's about it for me. Moving on, we have the Lakers against the Pistons. This is a team I feel like I like more than most people, but I don't know. I could just be crazy. No real injury news here. Anthony Davis is listed as probable, as are some of the other players like D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves, but they should all play. This is a great matchup against the Pistons. Who are you looking at here?
Yeah, as far as, let's see, we're going Lakers first. Yep. I don't know. I think I think Rui, probably he's been playing pretty good. I seemed like he kind of had a coming out party with the Olympics, with Japan this summer. So I like Rui a little bit, and I mean LeBron's looking a little old to me. So I'm not in love with LeBron, but I have a little bit of AD, and I other than that, I mean, I think trying to see who else is on here that potentially yeah, I think that's about it. I have, like I said, a little bit of AD. I mean, maybe a little bit of Russell, but 5% or something like that. But
yeah. And I just saw the notification come through that it does look like Curry is expected to play tonight. After missing 3 games, it wouldn't surprise me if they're a little careful with him and they put him on some sort of restriction. Teams love to do that. At 8,800 against the against the Wizards, if they were at home, I would be much more excited to pull the trigger, but it just kind of makes it tough for me to look at that team at this point, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm a Warriors fan too, so I follow
So
them.
you really know.
So yeah, I mean, I think they will be careful with Curry, so I would not, be over the field on Curry, for sure.
And
no
then,
reason to be.
Yeah. And then, were there any other Lakers you were looking at?
No, I think the other side looks a little bit better to me than the Lakers, like the Pistons. Some Pistons I like, but yeah.
I think for me, my guy's going to be AD here. The Pistons are not a great defensive team. They're improving slowly but surely. They're young, but AD is not going to be limited here from anyone they have on the other side of this team. We've seen it. You play AD in pretty soft matchups, and you can play him in tougher ones too, but I go overboard on him when it comes to soft matchups, and he's someone I want to be significantly over the field on. I love this spot for him. And then I think you're right. We can target and look at some of the other Lakers players. LeBron James isn't standing out for me too much, primarily just because of his price tag or his ownership. 15% on an aging LeBron who we've seen have really good games this season, but it's primarily been in really soft matchups. And again, this isn't a bad one. I just don't like the ownership. If he was lower owned, I could get on board, but at 9K, 15% ownership, that's a really tough call for me. When I look at ownership, the only other Laker that's showing up for me besides Anthony Davis is Austin Reeves, and I'm still going to be pretty under the field on him. So not going too crazy on this game. The total's still pretty solid at 225. I just think there's better game environments. I know you mentioned the Pistons are a little bit more exciting for you. Who are you looking at here?
Yeah, I think Malik Beasley looks pretty good at 3,700.
Okay.
He seems like he's getting a little bit more minutes than Hardaway lately. So I think he is someone you could get some leverage on the field with. Cade is he's high owned, but he looks good this year, right? So not in love with Tobias. I don't love that chalky Tobias though. But and then maybe I know it's up against AD, and it might not be something that people look at, but I don't know. Maybe Jalen Duran a little bit. So yeah.
Okay. I hear you though. I mean, I think that Beasley call could be crazy.
Is he still with Larsa?
What?
Is he still with Larsa Pippen or whatever?
I have no idea.
I remember him with Larsa Pippen, so he wants to show up.
That could be a reason, but also too, the matchup's not bad. I like playing guards against the Lakers. His minutes are trending up, like you said, like in the right direction. They were a little low at the start of this season. He's starting to push like that 25 to 30 minute range, just depending on how the game goes and matchup wise too. So I don't think he's bad at all for like a 3,700 value play. Only 8% ownership. He's not someone who is showing up for me too much yet, but I honestly would like to see him show up a bit more. So I might put a like on him. I don't think that's a bad call at all. Cade Cunningham is another one of those guys I want to make sure I'm over the field on. I like playing guards against the Lakers. I always have. Works out sometimes it doesn't. But Cade Cunningham is one of those guys that matchups don't matter as much as it does for other players. Tobias is concerning. He is showing up for me in the DS right now. And for those of you who don't know what the DS is, that is DFS Army's optimizer. This is how I make lineups. It's how Swami makes lineups. It's how all of us who have been taking down tournaments make in our 150, 20 max lines, that kind of thing. Swami, what's your code for a 10% discount?
Swami. That's the code. Swami is the code for everything.
Easy. Yep. Just like that. You see his name on the screen. Put that into the code. You get a 10% discount. You have access to that. You have access to the Discord and everything else. Yep. But anyway, back on track. Tobias freaking concerns me because he hasn't had a good game, really, from a DFS standpoint. His price tag has gone down a little bit, but not really enough for his production level. He had a decent game against Philly, but obviously they were trying to force the ball to him because he had way more shot attempts than he typically does, and it still wasn't that pretty. So he's someone I might force the DS to go a little bit under on. It looks like he's going to be 20% owned. What are we missing, man? Right? Do you know?
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm definitely going to be under the field with Tobias, but yeah, I don't know what we're missing.
Yeah, I'm going to put a 15% exposure maximum on him. I can't do it. I have a little bit of exposure to Jaden Ivey. He's showing up in about 11% of my lines. I'm okay with that. At 5,900, we know he has upside, good matchup, good game environment, plenty of reasons to play him. And then your call, Jalen Duren. He's showing up in about 7% of my lines, so I'm right around field weight exposure on him. I don't hate it. I don't like picking on Anthony Davis, but at his price tag, 5,800, if this game goes back and forth and he can stay out of foul trouble, we know Duren can be explosive. So I don't hate that I'm right around field weight, but he's someone I don't really want more than 20% of or anything like that. So we'll see.
Plus AD could get poked in the eye or something. You never know. It doesn't take
and that makes it that makes the matchup so much easier if AD's not out there. We know he's a glass case. He breaks at the slightest touch.
Yeah.
And then the game of the slate, the game that everyone's talking about, Celtics against the Hawks. The spread is wide. That is something we do have to actually be concerned about. But as you can see, everyone and their mom is playing Tatum, White, Pritchard, Cornette. What are your thoughts here tonight, man?
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics look great. You know, I mean, he just opens up so much with Jaylen Brown being out, you know. So I'm going to have a lot of Celtics probably. So it looks like, you know, I'll be over the field on Tatum, Derek White, even, you know, a little bit of Drew, Peyton Pritchard, maybe not so much Horford, but definitely, yeah. I mean, I know Cornette is kind of, if he's still starting here, which looks like he probably will be. So I think all those guys look good, especially I think Derek White is probably my favorite out of those.
Yeah, I think this is a team I really want to see the starting lineup. I haven't seen the official starting lineup come out yet. Assuming Cornette's starting like he did last game, I think he is the go-to value play here. I don't think that's a bad call at all. Everyone's doing it. The guy I'm looking out for, though, is Sam Hauser. If Hauser ends up starting instead of Cornette, then I definitely want to make sure I have Hauser. He'll be super chalky at that point. But Hauser's been out for he's been battling that back injury, so they've been slowly but surely trending his minutes up. We saw him play 20 minutes against Charlotte. Still not quite enough for me to get excited, but if he ends up starting, he's someone I want some exposure to. And let me see, is he showing up in any of my lines already just naturally? Because I wouldn't hate it. No, unfortunately he's not. Okay, he's showing up in about 2% of my lines, so I'm still going to be under the field, but I don't think Hauser's a bad $3,500 play to look at by any means. I have a little bit of Nehemias Queta. He's showing up a little bit. I'm still going to be under the field on him. Tatum's the guy, like you said. I'm forcing exposure to him, making sure he shows up over the field. Not by too much, but I just have to have exposure to him here. Peyton Pritchard, I'm under the field, but not by much. Derek White, like you said, I'm right at field weight. He is the second chalkiest guy on this team, and so therefore I have technically the second most exposure to him, but it's really close to Tatum. And then Cornette is, as of right now, someone who's showing up in all of my lines, but I do expect Bobby Portis and Damian Lillard to kind of mess with him being a core play. I don't want to get too cute with Cornette because I really am. I'm concerned about the minutes with Cornette. Yeah, Brandon, I see you talking about Hauser there. I don't think that's crazy. Drew has the best matchup of them all. I don't hate it. Dixon, I like playing point guards against the Hawks, and he is the low-owned guy here.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Drew?
Yeah, I like that call there, especially at that ownership. I mean, I think definitely going over the field. I think it's going to get spread around.
Yeah.
But we've seen, and usually it's going to be Tatum or White in my opinion. But I do like being over the field, because it is only 7%.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, for me, just seeing a low-owned play is just
Yeah.
it gets me going, and I love seeing a matchup against the Hawks. I'll just call it a pre-lock show leverage play. He's not going to make my actual sheet, but if you all are watching this, I'm going to be double the field on Holiday. It's that simple. I think I'll have plenty of exposure to White. I'll have more exposure to White than Holiday. It's just a leverage play to be over the field on Holiday at this point, and a great matchup and at low ownership. So yeah, we like the Celtics just like everyone else likes the Celtics. But again, I'm not going too crazy here. None of them are showing up as core plays for me as of right now. And I'm totally fine with that. Let's see. Next up, we have the Hawks going up against the Celtics. A little bit of a tougher matchup for these guys, just slightly. Any of these guys standing out for you?
Not really. I mean, they're pretty decimated, so I know they're going to get a lot of minutes, but I'm not, not really in love with any of them, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe I'll probably be, maybe a little bit over the field on Jalen Johnson, but other than that, I don't really love Trey at his price tag. I'm good.
Yeah, like the Trae Young price tag is wild. They were just like, we're sick of him scoring 50, 60 plus 70 points. We're not going to let y'all play him anymore for below 10K. And once you get over 10K for me with Trae Young, my interest level goes down dramatically. Granted, we saw them do pretty well last night against the Pelicans. He did well last night from a DFS standpoint too, had 50 points. Tonight, I don't think it's going to cut it. Significantly more games on the slate and a significantly tougher matchup for him. So I don't love, like you said, any of them. Let me double check and see if any of these guys are showing up. It wouldn't shock me if we see someone like Jalen Johnson have a pretty good night, but at 8,200, I don't want to take the shot. If he was in the 7K range, I would be more open to it. And yeah, Okongwu coming back really ruins that Clint Capella situation for me and Rhodey. So I'm not looking at these guys. Next up, we have the Memphis Grizzlies going up against the Nets. Memphis, I feel like they're a team that kind of fell off people's radars for a little bit. They do still have quite a few injuries still. Desmond Bain, Marcus Smart, Luke Kennard, Vince Williams, Gigi, they're all out. Contra out. But who do you like here, if anybody?
Yeah, I'll be a little bit over the field on Ja. We still haven't seen that game against him. And I mean, we haven't seen that game from him really this year yet. I know he's, kind of getting back into it, but I think he could, we know he has that ceiling. So I think you never know. And if we're talking about getting leverage on the field, I think we haven't seen it for him. I know he's 9,300 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely see it happening tonight against the Nets. So
Tattoo. I almost didn't want to give this comment any attention at all, but you should play some NBA DFS tonight. I can already tell it's going to be a good one. We're getting some news coming in. We're getting some value. Bobby Portis is going to be a core play. There's already a lot of good things moving in the right direction, so I like it.
Steph back.
Wade and LeVert out for the Cavs. Okoro starting. Appreciate that update. Doesn't change too much for me, to be honest, but I might give Okoro another look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Pablo Schwami, you probably know what happens to that bet when someone's injured before the game starts. It just is voided, right?
Yeah, it'll just be voided. I mean, if you parlay it, it'll just be that one leg that's voided. Yeah.
Cool. So for me, I'm with you, man. Ja Morant, we hit on this last time around. We played Ja going up against the Bucks because that's what I do. But similar spot, the Nets are not a great team defending against guards either. They're not as bad as Milwaukee, but they don't really have a ton of great defenders at the guard position. So when that happens, I play Ja Morant, and it's pretty much that simple. I love it when he's low owned, so I don't have to do too much. He's not going to be someone I have 80% exposure to, but a simple match the field at 5 or have as much as 10 to 15%. That's my game plan today. So it's really Ja and moving on. Next up, we have the Nets. This is where it gets a little bit trickier because there actually are viable teams from the Nets, or viable plays from the Nets, which I'm just never overly excited about. But who stands out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Cam, Cam Thomas.
Yeah, he's been so good.
Yeah, I mean, 7,300, still not too bad. I'll probably just be around the field though. On him, and then Cam Johnson, maybe Schroeder, but I'll probably actually be under the field on those two guys. But I don't know about DFS Dorian Finney-Smith. I mean, not really loving him that much, but I see he's about 10% on there.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I have actually every single guy you mentioned, I have a touch of. I have like 2% DFS, not crazy, don't love the play. Cam Johnson, I'm under the field on. I have around 4% exposure to. Schroeder, I have 8% exposure, also slightly under the field. And then Cam Thomas is showing up in about 13% of my lines, so that's roughly 20. Also still technically under the field, but in my opinion, that's more so just matching the field. So I have exposure to these guys, but it's just not a situation I'm overly excited about. I'm just glad they're showing up in my lines enough where I don't have to force them in. Next up, we have the Kings going up against the Heat. The Heat historically are not a team we like to pick on too much. Are any of these guys standing out for you?
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. I can't think of a single reason to play any of these guys. DeMar is starting to look a little bit better, coming into form a little bit, but still not good enough for me. Fox has been a little rough. He had a good game against Atlanta and the Lakers, like most people do. And then Sabonis, a little bit more interesting and viable of a play, but I'm just not trying to go there on a slate where there's actually players I'm excited to get to. The ownership is enticing, but I can't just play guys purely because of ownership. There has to be at least one other reason for me. So safe to move on.
Yeah.
The Miami Heat, though, looks like they're starting to stand out a little bit more, at least from a projection standpoint. Anyone you like here?
So it looks like Hero is 17%. What do you think about that ownership?
Let me see. How much Hero do I have? I'm right at 17%. So I'm matching the field on him. I think it's really just because of his price tag at 6,600.
Yeah.
You can work with it. But let me dig a little bit deeper there. I don't love the matchup. I'll tell you that. And his performance I don't even want to call it streaky because he only had one good game against the Knicks.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I mean, I get it with the price, but I don't love it, So I'm definitely, personally, I'll be under the field on him, but I just don't really love this game in general.
Yeah.
be honest with you.
Yeah, it's not one of the higher total games on the slate. It's hard to get overly excited about anybody. Hero's just popping because he's cheaper than he's been in a while, and so I'm not going to X him out or anything. He'll show up in my lines, but again, I didn't do anything to him in the domination station, and I don't plan on doing anything to him in the domination station. I'm just going to let that one ride out. So yeah, pretty much hero or bust. I almost wanted to give Jimmy Butler a consideration here just because of the low ownership. But again, and the matchup's relatively soft, but didn't stand out enough for me on this slate where there's more guys I'm actually excited to play. Next up, we have the Jazz going up against the Chicago Bulls. The Jazz are the Jazz. You know, you never get overly excited about these guys. Not really a ton of the biggest news here is like Lauri Markkanen, right? Have we got the news that he's officially out? I think so. Yeah, it looks like
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, Markkanen's out, and then Clarkson as well is out. So again, those two things matter. I mean, I think that's why you see a boost to guys like Keontae George. They're showing up. Colin Sexton, they're showing up. We know these aren't great basketball players, so that's kind of what limits your excitement there, but they still have upside. But what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I think 3% on Sexton is interesting to potential just leverage play there, with Markkanen out. I think that we've seen some nice games from him last year. I don't know what's going on though with the coach over there. I don't know with Clarkson starting. I don't know what's going on with that, but
it's ugly.
But yeah, hopefully, he lets him go and play, and so I think I'll be over the field on him, and then Keontae George, of course, is popping a little bit, but I think those two guys for sure.
Yeah, I feel like basketball is one of those. Maybe not the few sports, but in my mind, it feels like one of the few sports where players and coaches really just piss each other off. And coaches will really be like, you know what? Well, screw you. You're just not going to see the court a lot. It happens in other sports, but it's way more obvious in the NBA. For me, just because of the lack of minutes for Sexton, it's hard for me to want to get there. Usage rate does increase with like Clarkson and Morey, Markkanen out. So I like the call, and he's low owned too, 6,400. That's not bad. I'll be over the field on Sexton. I'm gonna force some exposure here. Matchup against the Bulls is pretty just average and blah, so that's enough for me to be interested in playing him here. Kessler is someone else I like in this matchup. Again, is really just more of an ownership play, not someone I'm gonna have a ton of, but I just want to make sure I force some exposure to him. And then outside of that, guys like Keontae George, they're showing up. He's showing up by himself. I don't have too much of him, especially primarily because of Damian Lillard. He's really taking that guard spot for me at this point. And then no other Jazz outside of that. Again, just not my favorite game on the slate. The Bulls side is a bit more interesting. These guys are showing up everywhere. Even Bulls I didn't think I was going to be playing this early into the season are showing up for me. But what are your thoughts here, man?
Yeah, I mean,
and I'll mention Zach LaVine is questionable, so that will impact a lot. And Ball is out, of course.
Yeah. So I think I like Zach LaVine. Giddey is hard to trust. Just he's really hard to trust, and I don't love a chalky Giddey either. So probably be under the field on Giddey, but I'm fine with the Vooch ownership and LaVine, and then I mean, we haven't really seen Io. I don't think, have we seen him have like decent consistent run of games here? So
season.
I'm not sure that I'll probably be underweight on him as well. Since we have some other value on the slate.
Yeah. I think for me, this is a team I like. The Zach LaVine still being questionable news, and us apparently for some reason having all these games start 15 minutes apart, which is super frustrating, but I'm trying to not go on a rant about. The Bulls.
I think someone said that it takes 15 minutes to vote, so that's why they did that. I don't know if that's true or they were joking in the Discord.
I really hope they were joking because that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Whatever. I mean, because the only people who will notice it are DFS players. No one else realizes that there's 15 minutes between the game they want to watch. Only us. Yeah. So whatever. Right. Anyway, Josh Giddey is someone I am going to force exposure to. He makes me nervous. He's not safe, but I'm significantly over the field on him. This Jazz team is awful. The matchup is awful. His price tag is great. And so therefore I like him. If Zach LaVine ends up not playing, then Giddey becomes super chalk on this slate.
Yeah.
And I like that a little bit less, but everything makes sense. He's playing minutes, which is something we haven't seen him do in a while. So he's someone I'm going to be over the field on. Let's see.
But it's Josh Giddey.
Yeah. Never happy about this. And then Zach LaVine, I have about 11% exposure to right now. So if he plays, I'll have some exposure. Great matchup, just like I said with Giddey. And he's only $300 more. So if we get the news before lock that LaVine's good to play, I am going to boost my exposure to LaVine to make sure he's at least as high owned as Giddey is, because they're both in really good spots here tonight. And then Vucevic is someone I would like to see show up a bit more for me. The matchup is great. He's not expensive. The tough part is we have the Kornet value. The issue I have with Kornet is last night he had a super soft matchup against Charlotte. We know you can play bigs against Charlotte. The Hawks are also not a great team against bigs, and so that's part of why I'm not getting as excited about Kornet, but I'm still going to be over the field on him. But because I'm not going to have as much as some of the, as most of the other DFS players out there, it allows me to force exposure to guys like Vucevic. I don't know if I'll be able to get up to 15%, but I will at least be at 10% exposure to Vuce. And then that's pretty much it for me. Jalen Smith is showing up in one line, but he's not someone I think you need on this slate, barring some weird injury.
Yeah, and maybe some Kobe White, especially if LaVine is out,
Yeah, great point. If LaVine is out, Kobe White at 6,800 in this really soft matchup, usage rate increases, no more DeMar DeRozan. Honestly, it would be a smash spot for Kobe White in that situation.
Yep.
Don't forget about the Bulls. This is also one of the third highest total game on the slate, closest spread out of all the high total games. This is just one that I'm forcing exposure to because it is a good game environment, not because I like the players. Next up, we have the Knicks, who I think I like more than you if I had to guess. But what are your thoughts here?
Well, you talked me into playing some more Giddey. I'm just going to take a shower after.
It does not feel good.
No. Well, yeah, I mean, wow, Josh Hart, almost 40%. Yeah. That's a lot. I don't know that I'll be that high on Josh Hart, but I think the ownership is a little low on Cat. I mean, we saw him in the preseason look pretty good, and I haven't, and he seems to be coming on a little bit right now. So I do like Cat. He can definitely, have a really good night tonight, I think. So I think he and Brunson, I will be over the field on. So, and then, I mean, Josh Hart maybe under the field, and then I'll throw in some McBride in there as well, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Just mix it up a little bit. I hear you. And I mean,
he was popping a little bit on the Proptimizer too, so I'm giving a shout out to the Proptimizer.
All right. And what's the Proptimizer? Can you go tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the Proptimizer is basically showing where we have over 60 sports books now at Sharp App with Sharp App 2.0 released, and we are showing you the best value on the props, whether it be just props so you can bet straight on props on sports books, or if you're playing on Prize Picks, Underdog, Sleeper, any of those apps. And there was some value on McBride over 9.5 points today. And we've seen him, just get really streaky with shooting threes. So, yeah.
Yeah. And at some point, we're going to need to be able to share the prop optimizer on the screen, give people a little bit of a sample of it so they
for
can
sure.
see what they're missing out on. But we'll do that in the future.
And we do have a free Discord as well, where we're putting out free plays, and I'm putting out free winning plays. Trust me, if you hop over there to the free Discord. So I'm making people enough money where they can actually pay for the Sharp app if they don't have enough money, and I'm continuing. They're getting even more plays. So
look at you. That's a saint. That's a saint right there. Are there codes or anything for the Sharp app, or?
I mean, there's always code Schwami in the App Store, but I do have a link that can give you a discount as well, which is really easy. So
you wanna put the link in the chat for anyone who wants to do that? I want to become a props person. Maybe by having you on the show more, you can talk me into it, but I need a lot of help and guidance. I'm good at DFS, but the props, I don't know. It just doesn't all compute for me. But one of these days,
interesting. Yeah,
it will.
Cool.
Josh Hart is showing up a lot for me. I absolutely cannot stand it, but the sim model liked him. Let me double check and make sure I wasn't delusional. 6,100. Yeah, the sim liked him enough where I wasn't going to completely X him out. The matchup against the Rockets isn't awful this season. It seems like they've gotten worse at defense, which is weird because they haven't really lost too many players or really any to really impact that. But Josh Hart at 6,100 is still concerning because he hasn't really shown any real ceiling performances. He's had 30, 40-point games, but not really enough to exceed value enough to win you a GPP. I am going to be around field weight. I am not allowing him to be a core play for me. I have a 45% exposure maximum. Now, I'm with you when it comes to Cat. Those of you who've been watching so far this season, I've been anti-Cat. I have biases against him. Blame Jimmy Butler, not me. He put this on me. But Cat he's been good. He's taking a lot of shots, a lot of threes. They've been falling more often than they haven't been. He's been getting those rebounds. He's involved in the offense, has a decent usage rate. He's someone that I want to be over the field on. I haven't landed on if he's going to be like a leverage player or not for me, but he's someone I do want to be over the field on. And then Jalen Brunson, same situation. It's weird. I don't want to force too much exposure to this Knicks team, so I'm trying to be careful. But I do still like the spot. So I have a 10% min on Brunson just to kind of make sure he shows up a bit more. We haven't seen that true Brunson ceiling game. We saw a little bit of a sniff of it the other day against Detroit where he had 50 DK points, but he can do better, especially at this price tag. We saw him go down about $100. He's now 8,300, no longer 84. I think we're getting there. And like I said, this matchup doesn't really concern me too much. Going up against Fred VanVleet is not a problem at all. So Brunson, he's someone I want to force exposure to. I wish I had the guts to go a little bit stronger. If the total of this game was higher, I would be a bit more excited about it. But both of these teams play at a pretty slow pace. Anyone else you want to touch on here? I know you mentioned McBride.
Nope, I think that's it. Yeah.
Cool. And then last but not least, we have the Rockets going up against the Knicks. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Knicks kind of shut down. I think they're going to shut down the Rockets, but I mean, I guess a little bit of Jalen Green, never hurts, but not in love with the Rockets there. I see VanVleet is, about 5% owned, so I don't know. Nothing really stands out to me though on the Rockets. Yeah,
I can't tell you what happened in that last game against the Warriors with Jalen Green. Just a really weird situation where nothing was going right for him. But outside of that, he's had a pretty solid season. He's been pretty involved, even in semi-difficult matchups. I couldn't get there today. The Knicks have just been really good against everybody besides the Celtics. So I'm not going to Jalen Green tonight, but I don't think he's a bad call at all at super low ownership. He is the offensive weapon for this team. Şengün has only had that one good game against the Hornets. Not really too many guys I like here for the Rockets. Unfortunately, they're just kind of hard to look at. I think Steven Adams is helping Jalen Green a lot, especially in the screen plays, but with him being questionable, I'm double checking to make sure we didn't get any news on him. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. That's also part of what makes me a little bit more nervous about him. But if, Adams plays, I really do think Green could be a really solid low-owned play. All right, we'll get to some of these questions. Let me see. We have the 20%. Let me see if I can put this in the chat. It might not let me. Yeah, here we go. This is Shwami's code for a 20% discount right here. And so, yeah, y'all, we'll spend like the next 5 to 10 minutes just answering some of your questions. Brandon, I see you like Eason for some value. William, you like Şengün. If you're right, come back tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday. I forgot. No games tomorrow. I'll give you a highlight. I'll remember you said it. How to reset percentages if I want to start my domination station all over again. Basically, what you do, man, is you go to where is it? Reset. Okay. I think it used to be reset everything, but now it's just reset settings. And so you click on reset settings and then everything will go back to the way it was before you kick things off. 50 cents on the OG double tonight. Good luck. Anti-cat tattoo. You're not going to be able to get me to say that. Dixon said fade everyone. I hear you, man. Looks like people like the cat call. I don't not trust your props, Dixon. I'm just not a props guy. One of these days, that's why Shwami's here. He's here to help me get better at it. Brandon,
I get the same thing though, because I do shows on my own, and if I don't pick people's props, they get mad. But can't pick everybody's props, man.
Yeah. Brandon said any Fontecchio love. I realize I say his name wrong.
Fontecchio, right?
Yeah, it's Fontecchio, and in my head, I've been saying Fontecchio for so long. I just can't not say it that way. But yeah, it's Fontecchio. Did you think about him at all?
Every time I play that guy, he does absolutely nothing. I don't know. Yeah, and he hasn't done anything this year, right? So I haven't really thought of him, but
yeah, I mean, if you're really trying to get cute, you can look at him. Yeah. If you're expecting a blowout in that game, which isn't crazy, but I don't really play for blowouts, so he's not going to make my list today.
Yeah.
There were some questions at the start of the show. I should probably try and go find. Wright, Ricardo mentioned Delon Wright. Similar situation. He didn't really make the cut for me, but what about you, Shwami?
Yeah, I mean, I think just same deal as Fontecchio or Fontecchio, as you say, right? Yeah, he just didn't make the cut for me today. So
yeah. Ian, I'm sorry, y'all. First, I don't really play on FanDuel, but also it will be a cold day in hell if I have an 8-game slate I can just really focus on versus however many games are on FanDuel tonight. You're not going to find me doing that. I really like to narrow down the focus, not trying to expand it. But good luck to everyone over there.
Go with your gut, though. I will say that, go with if you're feeling it tonight, I mean, I was feeling Bilal the other night, and then Josiah was feeling Poole. If we would have played them both together, it would have been good,
I know. Someone asked me 1-for-1. I think it was Bilal and Suggs. And I was like, well, I know Suggs has upside. I haven't seen it from Bilal yet. And I was like, if I would have just had both in the same lineup, it still ended up being a great night. But I was like, if they were both in the same lineup, that was actually the right answer.
Right? Exactly.
Oh, tough. Let's see here. I see people talking about Moody, but I know we don't like Moody. What are your thoughts on Pods with Curry playing? Would you still consider him at all?
No. I think just like you said, yeah, he's most likely going to be coming off the bench. And I mean, I think especially at that price, yeah, I don't think he's priced appropriately for Curry starting.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about how much they hate the Bobby Portis chalk, how much it burns us before in the past, and how painful it is. You're not wrong. Sometimes this Bobby Portis play really does suck. Yeah. I do prefer playing him when he's at home, but I'm playing him. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm playing him, and then I've been there, and then you don't play him when he's chalk, and you get screwed.
Yeah.
So
It's just
just
one of
gotta
those
play him.
situations.
Yeah, eat the chalk.
Yeah, not trying to get too cute with it. But also, like y'all are saying, I don't love it. At least he's not like 63, 6,400 like he usually is in spots like this that we've seen before. Kalabali or Monk? So I'm assuming you're talking. Yeah, I mean, actually, they are. For me, it's Bilal. Who are you looking at here?
Yeah, Bilal. I did notice that the Proptimizer was under on Bilal's numbers today,
Oh,
but it was yesterday, and I had it was over and then under, and he ended up still having a decent game. So I think it's going to be a tougher matchup with the Warriors, but I'm still taking Bilal. I think he's on the upward swing. So.
yep. Do you all think that Lillard, Portis, Lopez, or Derek White, Holiday, Tatum? For me, it's the second one. Which one do you like?
Yeah, I like the Celtics. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunately they're going to be heavily owned.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lillard and Portis will be pretty high owned too at this point, but in both lineups, at least you have Lopez and Holiday as like the lower owned stacks there. Not that you're looking to stack in NBA, but literally that's what you're doing here, and it makes sense in these situations with injuries. Uncle Cheese, what's up, man? Added Rui to the list. Does that change your Kalabali call at all?
What did we have as ownership for Bilal?
Rui,
Be able to pull that up.
uh,
I think we had 10% on
yep, for Rui.
for Rui,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to pull up the ownership on Bilal.
It's 16.
16%. So I think I would go with the least owned there. Maybe Rui, because I feel like Bilal is is gonna have a tough matchup there.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, I do like picking on the Pistons from a defensive standpoint. Uh, for me, I've just already kind of taken my shot with AD, and so let me see. Do I have any Rui showing up? No. Well, yeah, I have like 1%, but not enough to be different. I do like the Rui call though. I just wish he was slightly lower owned, but I'm gonna force at least like 5% of him in there because I don't hate that call. That is a good group to be choosing from because that is like the tough range today. But for me, it's still gonna be Kalabali. Whoa, job 1804 TV. What's up? Said, good luck, Kings and Queens. This is the week we break the slate. Continue being great, y'all. This is your year plus next year. Okay, nice. Keeping it going. This is like my third day at DFS Army. I wanted to prioritize Tatum, Cade, and Davis to be in every lineup. How do I do that? I don't typically go about doing things that way, but if you want to force them in every lineup, you can lock them like AD. Maybe I should do this first. Tatum and Cade, and like you can lock them into every lineup is probably a good way to do that. But if you want to prioritize them, you can use like a Love and a Door, and that will naturally boost their projections a little bit more. So you don't have to force them in. For me personally, I usually just put mins on players to make them show up how much I want them to. But yeah, there's quite a few different ways you can go about that. Yeah, tough matchup, Jason. You're not wrong. I don't think it's crazy to fade Portis. I'm just not. Don Juan said, Giddy, yes for core. Yeah, he's going to be there for me. Herder is out. Yeah, I think we expected that from the Hawks. They're a bit banged up. It doesn't change too much for me, personally. Monk should be a decent play with Herder out. Oh, I keep forgetting that he moved. Herder out. Yeah, and you see the boost in projection too. He's really the only king that's standing out from a fantasy point per dollar perspective. Monk for me is still not showing up, at least in my most recent runs. Let me see. When did we get that Herder news? I don't think it's new. Yeah. So like he's still not showing up for me. We got it like an hour ago. Yeah. So he's still not really showing up in my runs. If he shows up naturally, I'm fine with it. But the matchup against the Heat isn't much better. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Tattoo said make a rule that one has to be in every lineup. Yeah, that's one way of prioritizing them too. There's honestly a ton of different ways. We could spend a lot of time talking about it. Ruled out. Oh, look at you talking football, Dixon. All right, y'all. That's pretty much it for the show. I appreciate all the support, all the likes. Also, don't forget to like if you didn't already. And then we'll be back Wednesday. So good luck tonight. Peace out, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.